I have seen my kids being born, reaching out of their center to touch the world, turning, pushing, crawling, squatting and quadrupling, exploring every surface, climbing, every day learning something new. One day, I noticed they're starting to prepare their arms and their legs and the organization of their spine to prepare for walk. One day they stood up, balancing on their small feet, rising and falling, hundreds of times, never exhausted, excited by learning, attempting to walk, attempting to run. I was fascinated to see the perfect posture. I was amazed to see how these bodies know, how these little beautiful creatures know all that needs to be known. As if through every step they took, they've been repeating the steps of our own human species evolution. As if in every step they were held by the hand by all our ancestors. Seamlessly, they learned to pick and throw things, jump and land, manipulate objects of various shapes and sizes. They learn how to fight, and they learn how to dance. Learning something new every day, developing their natural human abilities, adapting to new situations, being creative, curious, and experimental. They are becoming the most universal athletes nature has created. Humans. As humans, we are the most universal athletes, the most universal movers on this planet. We move in immense variety of ways. Every other animal moves the way it does. Only us humans can imitate any other animal. And besides that, by the means of our movement, we can communicate the most subtle ideas. We shall and we could be growing in complexity until the day we have to die. But then, look at us. Do we? Most of us don't. What is actually happening? What is going on? I was once this kid, curious to learn, passionate to organize my body in peculiar ways, just like Zen did a bit, especially when the music was playing and somebody oversaw that and said, well, the boy's dancing. My mother heard that. At the age of 7, I started school. I remember sitting down on the square bench of the school, putting my arms on top, being told not to move for 45 minutes, just a bit like you here today. What a task. But then after school, I'd be taken to a dance class, ballroom dance class. This was the time when my natural and instinctual development of the child, my fun in movement and exploration, was replaced by the structure of teaching, learning, and training. 20 years later, skipping the school part, I was among the top athletes in the world in competitive ballroom dancing. I was a dedicated dancer, training many hours a day, doing everything I could to win my next championships. I was embodying dance. I looked like a dancer. If you saw me on the street, I walked like a dancer. And if you talked to me, I talked like a dancer. And in a way, when I look back now, I think I was a successful dancer. I used to win a competition from time to time, and I was proficient in some particular skills which would impress the adjudicators. I was successful in terms of the goals of my sport. But the question I tend to ask more and more these days, was I also successful in terms of the goals and needs of my own human body? Was I fulfilling my potential? Well, in fact, I had chronic pain and injuries. Every morning, I would feel my hip joints. They're not here, they're here. I'd be feeling those. My upper back would be often getting locked in pain. And I had a shooting pain in my foot. But everybody else in the professional field was injured. Everybody else had pain. And this was thought of as normal. Well, but somebody might say, isn't training and moving healthy? Shouldn't we move more? Exactly. We should. But we should move in the most diverse ways possible. Being a professional, I maximized my training time. I was doing the particular movements and particular skills, overloading particular parts of my body. I didn't have no time to waste. I trained what got me to win the next competition. As a result of that, I was not only in pain, I was robbed of all the potential that I could have otherwise fulfilled. It's a paradox. Dance is one of the most, is one of the highest expression of human physicality. But on the other hand, being at the height of my career, I also found myself in the box. I wasn't dancing in bare feet. My feet were not that articulate, somehow. And you would agree, feet are important. Everything starts there. And then I wasn't touching the floor with my hands. That's not what we would do in our particular style. I wouldn't lay down on the floor and do movements over there. That was not part of the style. I wouldn't do much of spine flexion. I would be always extending to present myself. In my partnership, I would be looking for ways to cooperate and to express ideas, but we would never struggle, solve problems in the way a martial artist does. Being a good dancer did not mean being a good overall human mover. A first eye-opener was when I met my partner and wife, Yekaterina. She came from a ballet world, I came from the ballroom dance world. We did projects together. Then I had chance to train with ballet dancers, contemporary dancers, tap dancers, jazz dancers, and all kinds of dancers. This opened my eyes. Movement variety could get me more developed. And then I asked myself, how would I develop if I would be exposed to even more variety beyond dance? Luckily, my career came to an end. Lucky because I did not conceive some fatal injury, and lucky because I did not split with my partner. The story goes somewhat different. We were preparing for our next stage performance, rehearsing, and she was not in a good mood that day. She was sort of picking on me, and I was happy to hear she wants to stop that day, and she said, could you please go down to the grocery store and get me some pickles? You know where I'm heading. As I was putting on my shoes and walking out through the doors, she added, could you please grab a pregnancy test? Actually, this is how lucky my dance career ended. Now we have 2 beautiful boys, and I wouldn't change this for any kind of career. Oh, she's here. Well, but at the age of 30, which I was then, I wasn't ready to stop developing. I didn't want to become one of those guys, ex-professionals, sharing their knowledge with the next generation of the secrets, of peculiarities of the techniques. No, I wanted to develop physically, mentally, emotionally. I wanted to be still on the edge somehow. So what was next? What was my next physical practice? What were the options in front of me? Well, the very first and the most obvious option was go to the gym, which I actually had been doing for some last 10 years and training with the best coaches to supplement my dancing. But actually, only the moment I stopped dancing, I realized that gym work won't do. It has nothing to do with movement. strengthening exercises, strength work, the deadlifts, the bench press, the snatch, the squat. Those are very particular movements. And I could be becoming stronger bit by bit, day by day. But actually, I would be locked in the same movement pattern every day. Where do I end up? Do I end up more complex in my movement or more primitive? That's the question I asked. There's also another aspect to it. So much of the gym work I found was motivated by aesthetics, motivated by certain shape and build of a human body that everybody was after. Movement was secondary. We used only those movements which were instrumental in shaping and building a muscle to certain shape. But other movements were lost on the way. Let's take the bicep curl, for example. So I do... Good? Zen? Yeah, oh yeah. So I do my bicep curl, and that's a very particular movement pattern. But what about this movement? And this movement? And that movement? It's not building my muscle, but doesn't it have a value on its own? I was watching myself in the mirror, in the changing room. That's what the guys do in the gym. And I was asking myself, is this body not only getting more beautiful, but is it also getting more intelligent? I realized gym is not the way for me. I needed to be able to do more with my body, to realize my human potential. I wanted not just to look better, I wanted to feel better, to last longer, move better. Well, the other obvious option was take another discipline, go running, do yoga, do indoor climbing, bouldering. I did that. Once again, I felt like in dancing. I was taken over by the goals of the discipline, perfecting my yoga asana, running another mile another day, climbing a little bit more difficult route. But there was a world of movement out there, and I felt I'm missing out. At the same time, I met a person called Ido Portal, a now world-famous innovator in physical culture. Through him, I learned a couple of important lessons. Movement diversity is important for us humans. Every day, we should be learning something new. Be a beginner again, just like children are. Develop your cognitive and physical skills. But not go after every discipline every day. Look for something which underlies them all. The movement layer. With your body, look for the ways to solve problems. Look for the ways to express. Look for the ways to move in space. Do internal work. Manipulate objects. Through all of that, develop rhythmicality, coordination, spatial awareness, reaction. Everything that defines us, intelligent beings, as intelligent beings in this body. Behind me was my professional career. In front of me were some examples of current physical culture, aesthetically driven approach, and the specialization. That was not the way. In front of me were also Ido Portal's ideas, but probably even more importantly, in front of me were my kids and a burning desire to learn. At that point in time, I realized, if I'm to design my own personal physical practice, which I had to do, I have to go back to the place where I left off, to a place where I started training, to a place where I left movement, to be a child again, to move like children do, to regain what's truly mine. Okay, here are my little boys playing with their little cars, and I say I spend more time with them. I play with them more. And I notice there's so much down on the ground. They're crawling. They're driving their little cars around, in here, in there, around, crawling, standing up again. Oh my God. That was a challenge. You know, going up and down all day. That's what they do, on the ground and standing up. I felt like I'm just too long. But actually, it was not my limbs that were in the way. You know what was in my way? Does anybody know what was in my way? It was our training education. Do you know these exercises? Let me remind you if you didn't. The sit-ups. Or the push-ups. Perfect posture, correct, go. Tuck, tuck, tuck. I could go on. Squats, perfect squat. And the pull-ups. There's no bar, but just imagine it is. So I go up to the bar, chin up on the bar. That's a 1. And then you go, that's a 2. You know? So this is our training education. Go to the gym, meet most resistance. Look for most resistance. That's the way you train yourself. But that's not how the kids move. Kids go up and down in the most fluent way. Sit-up is not a way to sit up. Squat is not a way to change levels in space. Push-up is not a way to push off the ground, and pull-up is not a way to climb. Those are useful drills for a particular purpose, if you want to train a particular quality. But actually, if you want to be alive, if you want to be going up and down with your children till you are 90, you have to be doing other things. I noticed the way they sit up in the easiest way, the way they go up in the easiest way, the way they push off the ground. They do. They don't do push-ups, but they come off the ground. That's body intelligence. True intelligence. And the way they stand. I remember this moment when they were finding their balance, spacious, arranging their weight centers, their head on top of the chest on top of the hips. We forgot how complex standing was. We fell into our postures, never finding out to freedom, to free ourselves up, to breathe easier. We got locked in our own bodies. Observing my children, studying with the greatest teachers in the field, studying and researching. Together with my friends, we've created a process we now realize we dreamed of, a proper movement education with one aim: move better. We start with regaining what belongs to us, an evolutional, natural movement of a child. But we don't stop there. We go do more. We express. We solve problems. We work on rhythm. We work on spatial awareness. We work on reaction. We play games in order to develop as human beings. This is my message today. Take back what's yours. Every one of us will benefit by playing with kids more. But don't stop there. Increase in complexity. Thank you very much.